So I just want to quickly give everyone the agenda for today. We'll do some introductions and Patricia will kick those off. We're going to go a little bit of program overview. Some of the outreach that I've been doing and other team members have been doing, and survey is part of that. And then we're going to have some time for feedbacks, Q&A, and hoping to give lots of time for that, and wrap up with some next steps for the residential rebates. And I'll give a teaser for our commercial and multifamily updates at the end. So if people have to leave, I also have a link. We have presented this a couple of times, and I can send that presentation around to anybody who hasn't been able to see it, but lots of good information there that I think will be pertinent. But with that, I will let Patricia kick us off.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah.
So welcome to everybody, the EBC, the Energy Efficiency Business Coalition. Many of you guys are members of our organization, but just as a reminder, we're a trade association for energy efficiency contractors, manufacturers, distributors, raters, as well as engineering firms and architects and ESCOs, performance contracting, you name it, any of the companies in the entire supply chain of energy efficiency, which is quickly changing into demand response and electrification. We start out as a gas rebate organization working on improving the rebates at Xcel Energy. And it's exciting because we've expanded and we're working now with the cities who have those types of goals going forward, especially with the advent of the greenhouse gas roadmap from Colorado Energy Office. And now we have new legislation for electrification. And so the ball is rolling, and typically the members of our organization are the first adopters and the innovators, which this group is. So we're excited to be working with Denver and giving feedback on the rebates. And really, our organization, you're the feet on the ground. You're the ones that have the direct contact in the field with the consumers and work with the utilities in the cities and have great feedback on what's working and what's not. So we're excited to host this meeting with Denver. And with that, before we go forward, I also wanted just to remind you to take the link, look at the link in chat box and take the survey if you haven't, but we'll be talking about that today as well. So welcome and thank you. And Jeff, I'll give it back to you.
Okay. Yeah, I think we want to do a really quick round of introductions, mostly because it's nice for us to know who we're talking to. Some of you I've already called in the past, but I will start us off and then I'll hand over to Mac Prather, and then I'm just going to basically call out people as I see them on my screen. So my name is Jeff Terrell. I'm with the City and County of Denver and the Climate Action, Sustainability, and Resiliency Office. And many of you have worked with us in the past on our rebates. So I think you know about what we do. And my role is the manager of renewable heating and cooling, and that has both single family homes and multifamily and commercial buildings as part of that role for both to run programs, policy, and incentives. And I have never installed a heat pump, but I will hand it over to Mac Prather, who is on his second day. He's wrapping it up today. So, be kind and gentle to him. We can be rough on him in a couple weeks, but Mac is going to be the one that's going to be your primary contact in a few months once he gets his feet wet, and we'll be working with these incentives more.
Thanks, Jeff. Hey, everybody, this is Mac Prather. As Jeff said, with the city of Denver, just on my second day here. So my background is mechanical engineering. We'll be really glad to get to know many of you and work with you as this program continues and evolves.
Thanks. And I see Jason Adams first.
Yeah, so just Jason Adams, Center Johnson Heating and Cooling. I'm the VP of Vendor Relations and Technical Training, which we're in the process within the next 6 to 8 months building our own full-blown training facility where we'll try to recruit people out of high school, try to get people to change careers from being an auto mechanic maybe But basically that's my position of the company, as well as, just developing and building the company out. So that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. Thank you. And I see Justin.
Hi, I'm Justin Smith. I work with Helio Home and I'm the VP of Operations there. We are coming up on our 1-year mark for installing heat pumps tomorrow, but we're built on a foundation from a number of people who've been doing this for like 20 years. And really excited to hear about the next phase of the rebates today. It matters a lot to us and we're really excited to kind of ride this wave together.
Cool. Jay Pridemore.
Jesse Pridemore here with Hercules Industries. I've been in the industry about 20 years on the distribution side. I was out of it for about 1.5 years, went to work for a manufacturer. So I am here just trying to get caught up on the state of rebates and everything energy efficiency and electrification. So great to be here. Thank you all.
Nice. Welcome. Ryan Van Tassel.
Hi, I'm the general manager for Stevens Equipment Supply. We are the Daikin distributor for Colorado and big advocates of heat pumps and heat pump technology.
Nice. Adam Stefatena. I don't know. It's
all right.
Yeah.
Steftenogel, but not easy to say. So hi, everybody. Adam here. I'm the CEO and co-founder of both Snug Home and Radiant Labs. You may be familiar with the Snug Pro software that is part of the Excel energy audits. And Radiant Labs is another software company that we're trying to build some really cool tools to help all the contractors sell heat pumps and a whole lot of other stuff. So we're participating here and trying to get a lot more involved in everything going on in Colorado. So thanks for having me.
Thank you. Luke Cooper.
Luke Cooper here with Cooper Heating and Cooling. I'm the CEO. We've been installing heat pumps, second generation here. So we started back in 1978, been doing high efficient heat pumps, furnaces since then. I started in 2007 in the field installing heat pumps personally. So excited to see the reinforcement behind this and taking this to the next level. So appreciate it.
Nice. Deb Goodman.
Hi, I'm the support person and contact person and relations for the EEBC.
Nice. Yes, a lot of this has been done by Patricia, Connie, and Deb. So thank you. And Matt Baker.
Yep. Hi, Matt Baker with Daikin Comfort Technologies. I'm the business development manager for electrification, government, and utility rebate programs in the West.
Nice. We will be reaching out to you more, I think. Joe Buerba.
Hey, pretty good. Hi, everyone. My name's Joe Buerba. I'm a team member for Energy Solutions. I'm the Senior National Strategy Manager, and we're a national engineering services and energy efficiency developer and implementer for many of the programs for multiple utilities, including Excel, and work quite a few hand in hand with many of the distributors, the manufacturers, and the market in large to help create greater awareness and incentivize heat pumps.
Nice. Sean Mullins.
Yeah, hi, Sean Mullins. I'm with Owens Corning Installation. I handle technical sales, some codes work for them. I'm just following along with the heat pump conversation today, just for informational purposes.
All right, welcome. Yeah, always good to know about weatherization and insulation stuff too. So, Michael Levinson.
Hi, I'm Michael with Group 14 Engineering. I am also here to follow along for informational purposes. We do not install heat pumps, but we help out some entities with quality installation verification. So hoping to learn more.
Great. Holly Green.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I am with Daikin Goodman Organization, currently in their project management office, and I keep in contact with organizations like yours. And Patricia, you know, we go back quite a few years. I think we met at a sweep event at one point. But Matt is really the kind of leader here for Daikin and our work as it pertains to all of this. But I just wanted to poke my head back in and get current with what's going on in Colorado and all of your activity around heat pump.
This is Alyssa. I
Alyssa.
didn't recognize the way you said my name. I apologize.
I apologize. Sorry.
No, I'm with Energy Outreach Colorado, very new to the group. We're just actually beginning a program that incorporates electrification in the city of Denver. So I'm joining to learn more.
Great. We will definitely talk more about some other programs. Welcome. Dale.
Yeah, I'm with Dale Richard. I'm with Emporia Home Services, a manager, and we've been doing heat pump systems for the last 3 years on the retail level.
Nice. All right, over to DR.
Hey everyone, DR Richardson. Sorry, my video's off. DR Richardson with Elephant Energy. We install heat pumps, heat pump water heaters, basically help homeowners electrify their homes. I'm the founder of the company. We've been at this for just under a year, I guess closer to 9 months at this point, and then work with a network of vetted contractors, some of whom are on this call, and some of our customers are actually on this call. So exciting that everybody's excited about electrification.
Nice. Yeah, and Rob Bayless.
Yeah. Hey, I'm Rob Bayless. DR took all of my talking points. I'm a senior project manager and a wrangler at Elephant.
All right, welcome. A couple of housekeeping things. I'm going to go through hopefully a presentation that will be fairly short, to the point, and give a little bit more information based upon the agenda. At any time you want to ask questions, I would encourage you to ask questions. The text into the chat box if you have a question, information at the end. If there's something that you want to talk to just myself about, or you have more information, this conversation is not going to be over today. This is something that's going to be ongoing for a bit. So with that, I'm going to jump in, unless Patricia, you have any other?
Yeah, I was just going to add too for the group that the intent of today is not a report out only on where the program's at and what the intent is to get the feedback to help inform your relaunch that you're looking at. And so I just want to make sure that we had talked about, if you have questions as we're going, we'd like to take the questions as we go, so it's a relevant discussion versus waiting till the very end and missing a lot of the feedback. So really, if you have ideas, no matter how crazy they are, I think this is the place to really kick them around and have that informal discussion today. So I just want to remind everybody and not wait to the end. And then just in case we run out of time at the end, we do have a follow-up meeting scheduled for Friday, the 23rd. It is in person. It is meant for the contractor. It's super early. It's a 6:30 start. If everybody said to do later, we will. But I think 10 of the people we had 40 RSVPs are attending that. So you can get a second shot of it if you have time to think about it and want to come back and discuss some more and invite others, because really, I think this is your opportunity to help inform and design the rebates so that not only is Denver more successful, but as contractors and distributors, you guys are more successful too.
As many of you know, because you participated or you've been watching the program, we launched on Earth Day in April of this year, and we closed up by end of June, mid-June, with the rebates, and I think we had some success out of this. 49 participating companies, 425 heat pumps. We did right around our 3 million between the heat pumps and the electric service upgrades. And on the chart there on the slide, you can actually see all the numbers, and air source heat pumps and mini split heat pumps are kind of the winning products of these. Now this is no reflection on what we want or where we're going with the programs. I think it's probably more of what was available and what was needed in a lot of these installations. But I think I really just want to go back to this idea that in the program goals, we wanted to see increased contractor participation in heat pump installs. I think we probably saw that. Some of you, this is probably your first time doing them. We wanted more technology installed and different products installed. We got a good scattering of that, so it's a success. And we wanted that in really different building applications. I think we have to do a little bit more, follow up with our small multifamily to see how many we got in there. And I think we also wanted to really increase the knowledge of everyone, both homeowners and contractors and the industry reps out there. I think, this is going to help lay that foundation for future work. So I think we still haven't increased our knowledge yet. I think there's still some work to be done there, but we've got some time. Let's see if I can get my slides to move forward. There we go. So as Patricia said, we're actually looking to relaunch, and our relaunch time is really, we've asked the question of, do you need it now? Do you need it in the future? Can you wait? I can say that, the earliest we could probably relaunch is mid to end of October. And that's just because of, we have to work through the program design and we have to figure out what we don't know before we launch into that. But what's in scope for the next round is definitely funding. The incentive amount is, going to be key to this. I do think we're going to keep it prescriptive. I don't think we're going to make it a % of the total cost or, put any black box behind it. We really want to make sure we layer some incentives. Excel has their incentives already. We want to make sure that everyone is taking advantage of those. And, with the IRA coming out, the federal tax credits, and some possible state money coming in the near future, we want to make sure we're using those funds wisely too, to actually build upon these incentives. Product types and requirements, they're definitely in scope. They're generally my last thing to look at because there's so many levers I can pull within a rebate program. And I think we need to get some better feedback about the requirements we have, which is why we're here today, and product types, that are out there. And we need to get a little deeper into that. And the last thing is education and outreach. I think a really key component of any incentive program is you've got to have good education materials out there. You've got to really tell people the things that they need to look for in this kind of technology switch. And it's not just the contractors, it's also the homeowners, it's the others that are involved in this. So I think sometimes people like to throw you guys under the bus as the bad guys that don't know what you're talking about, but you know what? Education is needed for everyone. And this is also for the city too. We need to know the things we don't know, which leads me to why we're here. So we asked some questions of you guys, and we wanted to know some more about what was your results or your information as you went through this. So first of all, it was a survey about this question about rebate funding. And it was really like, what was the dollar amount you think would drive homeowners to install heat pump technology? And pretty overwhelming. I think there was, the 50% was about 8 different, 8 or 9 contractors said, yeah, 50% would still work and I can wait. 75% were saying, hey, 75% of current was okay, was 1, stay the same was 1. There's 2 that were at 25%. I think this is really what, EEBC came to us before we launched and said, hey, can you cut this dollar amount in half and extend the rebates longer? This is about where we thought we were at. And as we get into this, I think we're going to look at this and say, we're going to look at the technology and the amount of each type. It may be around 50%. I'm not, we haven't really run the numbers yet. We haven't looked fully at each different product type and cost. But I think the idea is to get the overall funding amount at least in half. And you can imagine if we had cut it in half, we would have probably extended the rebates for another 2 to 3 months by doing that. That still doesn't get us to our full goal. I'd like to see us at least for a full year after launch so that we can have this. And we'll get more into that as we get into the feedback. Alyssa, hopefully I got your name correct this time. See your hands up.
Oh, sorry, that was an accident.
Okay, no problem. You tested it. It flashed in the corner of my eye so I can see this. So we also got some good, not just quantitative, but qualitative information. So someone had said, hey, don't just make it, 25-50, give us a 30-35% option. And it's definitely in play. I think that we're going to look at this. I just wanted to give some rough numbers and say, yeah, if we cut it into a 25%, yeah, we'd probably we'd be running out of funds about now. more than likely, but there's probably a little bit less leverage you guys would have had out there to make a sale. So some trade-offs of going lower. But I think there's some good feedback. I bolded out of this comment, allow the contracting community to build a business around it. I think that's important. You got to build your business, not just have a sugar rush for 2 or 3, installs. And the homeowners have to plan for the upgrades. You need to really, I think that's important information. Yeah, and so I think one of the things that I put my slides a little out of order here, but as we were talking about this, I wanted to get this more qualitative information, and I like to do something I call a outreach sandwich, where I have some conversations, I do a survey, and then I have some more conversations. So I reached out to some of you that were on the call today and some others in your companies, and just had some quick conversations with folks. My takeaways from those were that mostly the rebates have done what we asked them to do. They just ran out too quickly. We need to really give more warning to contractors that the money's out and we're going to be stopping them. We need a process for that that's better. I heard from several that it did increase heat pumps, that we basically, customers came to you guys and said, I want a heat pump hot water heater instead of regular hot water heater. I want to switch products. They needed to upgrade something at their home because it was old, and they heard about the rebate. So that for me is something working. So Ryan, you have a question?
Yeah, I put this in the chat, but the other part is not just the contractors need to be able to right size their manpower and how they want to go to market. Distributors and manufacturers need time to drive in the product to make it available to the contractors to participate in this. And that can take longer than it should. And so you need to keep the whole process in mind, that it's not just the contractor that this impacts, it impacts where they're buying the product from as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you, Ryan. Yeah, it is a whole ecosystem, and we have to start working our way upstream to the manufacturers and the distributors, and to make sure that, Jason had brought up the education and workforce training. That's another component that we have to get into. I think the more consistent we can be with these, and the more we can build a program around it, the less on and off it gets, and people can start to rely on it. So that is definitely a goal. Patricia, I saw your hands up.
Yeah, just a quick comment, some context and color commentary around the 25, 50%, 75% off on the rebate. Some of the specific feedback from the EBC contractors, manufacturers, and distributors, they explained it as the differential cost between the cost of the equipment plus the install labor time. I don't know if you can see me in the picture because I can't see myself, but so basically, if you look at the furnace and the gas, you have that, we'll say 3/4 of the cost with equipment and the labor, and then the same thing for the heat pump. And they were talking about the incremental difference of that 2,000 or 3,000 to install the heat pump. And I think that's where they were saying that if someone's going to install a heat pump anyway, and if you could do just that incremental cost being covered, then you would get 4 times more of the heat pumps installed, because if they're going to spend the money anyway and you give them a partial discount, then you're going to get more. So I don't know if anybody has comments on that concept before we go forward that's related to the amount of the rebate.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I also cover Utah, and they have a heat pump. It's a dual fuel program. It's $2,000, and we've seen a really good migration to heat pumps, and that's with a $2,000 rebate. And so that 25 to 30% dollar amount that you're talking about from the current rebate can still greatly move the market and touch and have more people participate, which I believe is the end game here, is to get as many heat pumps installed as possible. It doesn't need to be a $7,000 rebate, $2,500, a $3,000 rebate, and then working with the right equipment. That's the other part that I see the difference from working in 2 states is, Xcel Energy, by copying their program, you're missing out on some actually better technologies that could be offered, but they're so strict in how they're managing their program, they're not even reaching their incentive levels or their rebate levels that they've promised to deliver into the market, because they're set so high that a lot of manufacturers don't even have product that qualifies. And so we need to take a much more holistic approach of broadening that program to where better technologies are available to more people that ultimately drive heat pump sales, better comfort to the homeowner, and more people can participate.
Could I add a little bit more to that? Can you hear me? Yeah, our heat pump action group specifically, in talking with Excel, had a couple meetings, that it's the ear level that they've set that is eliminating most of the cold climate heat pumps to be eligible for rebates. So looking at that specifically for the Denver program might open up more opportunity for the cold climate heat pumps.
Yeah,
to be
there's a piece to it as well, that going into 2023, all product is being rated differently than it was previous, and that's from the federal government, the Department of Energy. And so we're really missing out on a lot of opportunities based off of an archaic way of testing product. And the new technologies coming over from overseas is actually more efficient, but they're not tested at the same standard that the U.S. market is, because quite frankly, the U.S. market is way behind the times when it comes to technology and how HVAC systems perform and are rated. And so I'll leave it at that without hijacking the meeting.
Yeah. And I would make one comment though, putting out a $7,300, $9,000 rebate created a massive amount of buzz, not only in Colorado, but other states. So there was a benefit to getting consumers' attention that was kind of a nice kick off, but it might not be sustainable. Maybe you get a first early birds special and you get them at that rate. And then it drops down. Anyway, I'll stop talking now. Thanks.
Well, I'll finish with that. You're not wrong, because that created a tremendous amount of buzz. But if you give contractors the ability to offer $2,000, $2,500 rebate, whatever that amount is, they themselves will go market those areas. So this case, the city of Denver, they will go market that heavily, because that's a huge advantage they have in the marketplace, and they will drive the sales regardless. If the rebate is still lucrative enough, trust me, dealers are not stupid. They're going to go chase where the rebates are, and they will drive those sales without having to have such a big carrot dangling in front of the consumer.
Great. I'm going to move to Justin. You're next on my screen. I don't know if you were next in the queue.
Sure. Thanks, Jeff. So I just wanted to point out, I like the idea a lot of kind of reducing the flash in the pan. I just wanted to also point out that it's actually on both sides for us, that we've got a huge queue of people right now who want heat pumps, who live in Denver, and they're saying, I'm not going to get a heat pump right now because I want to see what happens. And so I think it's just worth thinking about on both sides of as we're thinking about it, one, making sure it lasts a long time, but also not incentivizing people to wait too long. If we get a heat pump installed tomorrow, that's worth more than getting a heat pump installed a year from now, just from an environmental kind of perspective. So I just want to kind of point that out as well as a struggle.
Okay, thanks. And Adam.
So yeah, I want to add in, I guess, a few different things. First of all, like I resonate with Patricia's comment that let's try to get the incremental cost over the fossil fuel equipment covered. That especially makes sense now that gas is so expensive in Colorado. Finally, for years and years and years, you were fighting 70 cents a therm natural gas compared to 12 cents a kilowatt hour electricity. And now we got electricity at around 13 cents a kilowatt hour, but gas is $1.17. That's a complete game changer. It flips the economics of heat pumps absolutely upside down. So when you start looking at the modeled savings from, you know, doing just a heat pump improvement, heat pumps win. Even in, you know, in the cold climate heat pumps in Colorado against natural gas, they finally win. And so with that momentum, you don't need much more than making the equipment cheaper to make it really make economic sense on a long term. So the other piece of that puzzle, I would like to ask all the contractors and the folks on this call, and it'd be cool if we could do a poll. I don't know if you could do a you know, super quick poll in the tool, but how many of you all are selling your heat pumps with financing? And are you using, is there, you know, I'm a little out of the, it's been a while since I've like paid attention to what's going on in terms of financing in the state, but are you guys financing the heat pumps? And I would guess you're doing more so for the folks that are doing whole home, large scale solar and efficiency and envelope improvements as well. But like, how many of the projects are you guys financing versus not?
Yeah, and I think, you know, for expedience, we can probably have people chime in the chat.
Yeah.
And
I would love to
Great
hear that.
idea. Great idea.
And so the primary reason I bring this up is that when we've done large economic models, like we've actually done a whole bunch of modeling. We modeled every single family home in the state of New York. And we start playing with these various market factors and say, well, if we throw a whole bunch of rebates at the state of New York, can they sell more heat pumps? Does it cash flow better? Or, you know, based on various kinds of things that happen, if they do market development and workforce training and bring the cost down a little, does that help? But the thing that had the biggest impact by far was dropping the interest rate on the loan, way more so than the rebates. So if there's any way to get better financing, then you might have a much bigger impact on the total like market that this would make economic sense for than you would by simply throwing big rebates at it. So, you know, going from 7.9% or so, NYSERDA has a 7.5% interest rate loan, and it's like, that's not very attractive for a lot of people. But taking that down to 1.9% takes the total population of buildings that would cash flow positive from the large scale improvements from like 20% to 80%. It's a massive impact that kind of thing can have. And it's not necessarily that expensive to buy down interest rates depending on what kind of loan products you've got. So I just wanted to have that conversation at some point, whether or not that's appropriate to right where we're at in this presentation. But to me, that seems like it's a really big win if you can do it. Now, if you guys aren't using financing, then that doesn't apply. So that's why I think that's relevant. So.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we may talk more about financing, especially as we get into later next year. I think we start seeing some of what's coming out with the income, with the federal tax credits and federal money that's rolling out. I think we're going to figure out, because that's going to open up a whole nother chunk of people coming in that they may need financing for some of these also, but I don't know. We got to figure out how those work, but we'll touch on that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's $27 billion for the green banks. So that's a whole lot of money to loan out. And I hope Colorado's going after some of that in the green bank side of things too. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think one of the things that we wanted to know, and that the rebates should be helping us with, is really getting the motivation for change. And this is really, you know, it's like, how important are Denver rebates for your business to motivate homeowners to install this technology? And, you know, one person or one group, not important, moderately important, and highly important. And this is also was tied to, you know, can you wait to do these things? So I think this is, you know, an important factor that, you know, it's, you know, I think Justin had brought this up, like, hey, we need these things now because people are waiting to see what we're doing. There's also people saying it's like, yeah, we can wait a little bit longer. You know, we've waited from June, but I think this is a good kind of a, you know, point. I don't want to wait too long. We've got the buzz now. I don't want to delay them. I don't want to start a launch again April of next year. That would be too long for us to wait. And the other one was, Denver hosts educational material on our website based and for our residential clients. What information would help homeowners understand heat pump technology or maintain their systems? One group thought they were well informed already. I heard this in the phone calls. Definitely more follow-up information on maintenance of equipment and settings. I think that's something that we're concerned about, is that the contractor, does a good job, but the homeowner doesn't know how to set things. Are we going to, do they understand how things work on these heat pumps technology? I think that's to be seen. Hopefully they're getting their yearly maintenance. We'll talk about that at the end too. And additional information on different system types. I think this is probably something that I think we need to do a better job at the city. We need to have a little bit more of a clearinghouse of what is out there and what technologies look like and how they work, what kind of applications they're best for. I think that's also, part of your guys' job. You do a great job of telling people this is what's, applicable for your business or home. And then, the last one, I think, additional information on cost savings, cost increases due to fuel switch. Talked to one person that was pretty adamant that we're going to see cost increases as we switch from natural gas to electric. I think Adam had talked, that is being changed because of the variable cost of gas. But I think that if someone doesn't know that, then they're probably not going to give good information to the homeowner, to consumers out there. I think that's something that I'm glad we got this feedback, but always looking for more. And then just a little testimonial at the bottom from someone, it's like talking more about how we talk about the myths and bad stories to help people realize that heat pumps need proper design, installation, and verification. So I think some of the stuff is true. We know that there are going to be some bad installs. There's going to be some bad product that goes in. I don't want that to be the story that's told about heat pump technology or about contractors in Denver and Colorado. I think that, if we can keep the positive things going and keep telling the good stories that are out there, I think we can do better. And our last question was really like, what else do we need to know out there? Because I think this is probably the jump off. I've got 3 slides of kind of what else is out there. And I'll kind of just run through them. I think, it's like we need to help set the tone. We need to make sure that we're looking at the leaders in the other places. Like someone brought up, what's going on in Europe. We can look at what others are doing across the country and other places. We were definitely getting people, on board and making a switch by doing this, but I think we can keep that moving. And I think that, it's like, I think the last one I want to dig more into, like, homeowners need to understand that heat pumps work differently and they'll have to get used to how they feel. I think that's, it's like that aspect of heat pump technology is something we could probably have a little more testimonial from customers of what that difference is at their home. Electrical cost savings, standard compressor versus inverter systems. I think some of this is more this technology switch and getting more technical. I think this is where, we have to pick our, how technical do we get with our homeowners and versus our contractors and installers. I think this is, I think we can be pretty open and still make things at a 6th grade level for homeowners to understand what's going on, but get more technical for folks like yourselves. I think, the middle one here, it's critical that rebates do not stop abruptly due to funding. We've heard this loud and clear. And, the goal of high efficiency heat pumps, the inverters should be required, but not high ears are not only pertinent to single speed systems, are only pertinent to single speed systems. Yeah, and I think, we've definitely heard this talk of, do we do more with variable speed systems, or do we, allow for the single speed systems? I think we can have some conversation about that because, yeah, definitely different system types are in scope for this change. And I think the last one, very similar, we just have to make sense of what we're rebating for, I think is what we're getting the last ones. And our last ones, before I go into kind of next steps, and we get into more discussion about the heat pump rebates and where we're headed. I think we really want to look at, redefining product category names. I think that's probably important. I think this goes along with homeowner and just education. I think some people were confused about what was in scope or what was out of scope. I heard that from a couple contractors, that they had to walk people through that just because there's more money for something doesn't mean that you're eligible for that, or that that's a good fit for your home. So I think, there's probably a lot more information we can get out there for our homeowners. And the last one, it's like, we want to really look at, are cold climate heat pumps the best thing to use? Are air source heat pumps less good? Do we want to start changing the dollar amounts for these, or are, what products are rebatable or not? I think that is definitely in scope, but I think we need a lot more conversation. We need to have a lot more information about what that does to your, to your business, what's, products coming into the market, starting to change things very rapidly could have even more disruption on your businesses and the growth of this, of what we're trying to get with switches and heat pump technology. And I'm going to stop after this slide, and we'll go into discussion about the heat pump rebates, see if there's any more information, and then I will go into a very quick some slides about our multifamily and commercial program. But I want you to know where we're at and kind of where we're headed with this. We're gathering feedback from contractors. That's part of this. We want to go first with those who participate in our programs, and then non-participating groups, because one of our goals is to increase the number of contractors that are installing heat pump technology. And I want to start reaching out to those who are not signed up with Excel, did not participate with us, and find out why not, what would get them into this. And then homeowner feedback. We have a good list of those 400 homes that have participated. We're going to go out and do a survey with those folks and find out more about what their experience was. And this is mostly what motivated them. We're not looking for, did you guys do a quality install, or like how long did it take? But we're going to be asking about financing. We're going to be asking about some things that, we want to know more about how it works out there so we can apply that in future years. We're also going to be looking at non-participating. This is our hardest group because we don't know who didn't participate. Not everyone, who is out there, we could certainly go through and pull everyone who got a permit for a hot water heater. Those are, hard to search through in the city system right now until we have some upgrades in our system. It just looks like a quick permit, so we don't know what they exactly did there. But if you guys know of those who were on the fence or would have wanted to but didn't because of some other reason, I'd love to talk to them. You can certainly ping me after this, but it'd be great to either get the information from yourselves or from those people. And then the last thing that in our addition here before we start to the design is really federal and state rebates and tax refunds. We need to figure out what the timing of these things are. We know January 1, the IRA kicks in. What's the process for state rebates or state funding? They say they're instant rebates. What does instant mean? I think that we're going to figure those things out. And what's the process and what are the products? Are they going to be the same as what Excel has? Are they broader? I think there's some things we need to figure out, because the more consistent we can be, the more likely we can drive a market that's reliable. And the last one, rebate design. We're really trying to say, what's our funding levels? How do we extend this for a year of funding, product specs, educational materials. And my goal is to get an update on progress by mid to late October back to yourselves and anyone else that you would have that's hoping for a rebate. I can tell you that it's hard for me to think that we would pass up starting at least in January 1 with all the tax credits coming, but I'm also here listening to be convinced otherwise of why we should start earlier or what else I'm missing. And with that, I am going to turn off my talking and start listening. And if Patricia, if you have any like kind of keyed up Q&A or something that you have been hearing from others, please let us know. Or if I've covered everything, then I can probably give time back at the end of this. Oh, Jesse.
Sorry, I'm trying to unmute. When I'm out there talking with my contractors, the majority of them that did not participate in your program had issue with having to submit to the city of Denver to get the rebate amount back. There was a lack of trust in the government. No, don't know why that would happen, but you know, they didn't want to offer it directly to the consumer. They would more prefer if it was at least submitted from them, but then the check was cut to the consumer and not to them, so that they got their funds up front and didn't have to worry about funding running out and them getting hosed on that job was the overwhelming concern I heard.
Okay. Yeah, and we have actually kicked around trying to figure out if we could get something that much like our e-bikes that have a voucher system, so that, you know, we could build that trust to say, yes, you are in, or yes, no, you're not, but to move that fairly quickly. But I think, yeah, I think that's good feedback to understand that if trust is an issue, we've got to figure out a way to move through that. And
can I add to that? I can't see if anybody else has their hand up. Yeah, it's almost like looking at Excel has the instant rebate at the register, you know, do it yourself at Home Depot for, unfortunately, well, I shouldn't say unfortunately, but for swamp coolers, for they had that program that they ran, but it was that instant rebate at the register. You got it immediately versus waiting for your install.
yeah, anyone else have you know, experience like the either lack of trust or even just within those who did installs, you know, the waiting for funds or kind of the anxiety at the beginning of this? I think Holly has her hand up.
I have to unmute myself, I guess. So, you know, I always go into these meetings and say I'm not going to speak. It's a lie. I always do. I always have some thought. I guess my question is, from the perspective of the contractor, is they have to invest heavily in time, right? So time is money for them. They've got, you know, no truck rolls, no calls, whatever the additional expenses. And maybe they just don't want to invest because they were actually not selling and really don't believe in heat pump technology for their customer base. So yes, it might be a government, I don't want to report issue. And it might also be, I'm not going to invest in something I don't believe in, but I don't know who those people are that said no and didn't, you know, follow through, but that might be a consideration.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think that's a question I have for those businesses that did not participate and have not participated in the past. It's like, if there is a reason, I think, or a barrier, how does this program overcome that barrier? So, thank you. And I think Luke, you have your hand up next. I think you're still muted, Luke.
Sorry about that. No, we did more than 400,000 in this rebate program, and there was definitely people in my management team who had these concerns, who voiced them. And we just kind of really try to communicate with you guys throughout the entire process, weekly touches on where are we at, how are the funds looking, making sure that, hey, if we've got this many jobs that have been quoted with this, you know, when do we need to pull this back? And, you know, there only being 50 contractors, I think that was able to manage through with this time. But as you guys continue to try to grow this and expand it, like Justin said, I've got, this was such a flash, it was such a big thing, and it came and went so quick. I probably got another 20 to 40 people in this shoot right now who are waiting to see what's going to happen with this, who are ready to go again once this thing launches. So once this thing kicks off, you know, we definitely want to extend it for as long as possible, get as much, you know, bang out of the buck as possible for, you know, the energy savings that we're going to be able to, you know, provide the grid by getting all these people on heat pump systems. But I think it goes back to what you said at the very beginning. We need to work on that communication piece on how are we being notified of how much funds is left. And that way we can set expectations properly with our customers. Because we definitely, like I said, quoted some of these jobs and had to tell them, sorry, I cannot put this in right now. We'll let you know if anything changes. So that would be the biggest thing I think we need to focus on going forward here. And then like with Ryan, how he's, I'm a Daikin partner with them as well. And, just that communication with them on when these things are happening, what those units are going to be so that they can have the inventory in order to support these things. I mean, we don't prep the manufacturers and distributors with this. It becomes really hard when we have the customers, people are willing to make this investment, but then we don't have the material in order to get it taken care of. So I think, Daikin having such a strong representation on here is really great, shows their commitment to this, and just communication with other manufacturers and them is really going to help this. So.
Okay. Yeah, I think I should add that to my slide for rebate design is communication. Like, how are we going to do that communication? Because that seems like that is going to be key to how we move forward with you guys and with others to build that trust.
I was just curious if and I don't even know if you can do a show of hands or something somehow, putting your hand up, but if it was more of where you're saying options where the rebate went directly to the homeowner and took the risk off the contractor having that carrying cost, as well as like the instant rebate. And even if that went to the contractor, I'm just curious how much more participation from contractors could you expect versus having the carrier or the contractor carry the costs? And I don't know if anybody has any thoughts on that. I was just curious. Or is it really just the timing of finding out, is there funds still available?
I would say it's the timing of the funds. We just need to be able to see what it is. That was the biggest concern that we had doing such a large investment in this is like, man, if we get stuck with this bill, that could be really horrible for us. But at the same time, the juice was worth the squeeze. So we figured it was something. We've been great Excel partners for a long time. I was the opposite, the conspiracy people out there. I was like, they're not going to leave, all these contractors hanging for $2 million if this thing goes over. Like, they are going to figure out how to make sure we're taken care of if the top does blow off of it. And, because I know what you guys are trying to do, and I know we're trying to extend this. And if you did burn every contractor that was involved in it, it would have a really hard time continuing this thing going forward. But I think if you guys could be more transparent and visible with where those funds are at, like you talked about the electric bike, having a voucher, having a reservation, a spot that you reserve that, like, this is my rebate and I've got that allocated to me. I don't think we need that money up front. That was never a concern for us on that end. I don't know. I see Justin on his head. And so that's my point of view.
Okay. And another question is the homeowners that are, a couple of you have mentioned that you have 20 or 40 people waiting for the next rebate to come out. And I know, there's two things. There's either somebody who is having their emergency, it's end of life equipment, and they need to replace it now. And then there is the people who obviously are making a choice to make their switch out, but it's not necessary yet. From my understanding, Denver, you were looking for converting people who weren't planning to do it anyway, versus people who were going to get a heat pump anyway. So any thoughts on that? Because it makes me think about those people who are sitting there, and I'm seeing a couple comments from the importance of the envelope. Can you pair or do companion rebates with insulation, air sealing while you're waiting, get your envelope fixed? Or, I don't know, I'm just kind of throwing something out there. But the question is, and any thoughts on when to replace if somebody's waiting or if they're having an end of life replacement choice?
Yeah, I'll let Justin, you had your hand up, at least it's on mine that shows you in the queue.
Yeah, I'm not sure this exactly addresses Patricia's question, but I was just going to kind of echo what Luke was saying before of having just the experience of the last time of, and really appreciate how well Denver communicated. Like I want to recognize that, like, I think you all did a great job in like responding whenever we had questions and stuff. But it did definitely have us constricted of like, okay, we've sold these jobs. We're trying to do these jobs. We've been honest with homeowners that there's a chance they might not get the rebate if things don't happen, but like, that'd be a horrible customer experience. Like we weren't really planning on doing that. And so it did turn into, okay, let's burn everything we possibly can to get everything installed by the end of this time as possible. And like, just really, so anyway, that's the effect it had. Something like an eBay. I'm sure there's other downsides to anything we can come up with, but just off the top of my head, the idea of like similar to the e-bike rebate system of reservations sounds way better. And it's much more around the clarity of, yes, you're going to get this rebate and we don't have to rush to install it within the next 1 week, rather than exactly when the time frame comes or exactly what the requirements are. Like, we totally understand. We want you to require us to install really high quality and to prove that this is good for the environment and all that sort of stuff. So like, in our mind, those requirements are actually a good thing because it requires high quality installations. It's more so just if we can reserve and tell a customer when they're signing, we guarantee you're going to get this, assuming as long as we do what we're supposed to do on our end, that would be a huge benefit to the customer experience.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll say we're still researching this and how this would work, because we have to work through our contractor on this. They figured it out somehow on the e-bike side, and they've got that same, it's like you're in. It's a little different because people like, we ran out of rebates on this last round in like 5 minutes. But it's going to be a little different because you have to have, it's still something I would want that to go through. I wouldn't want homeowners just coming in and saying, I want to get this, and then having to contact, groups like yourselves. I want it to go through that they are actually researching it, getting bids, getting into the queue. So I think we have to figure out a little bit more of this, but I do appreciate the feedback. And Luke, you have your hand up.
Yeah, to answer Patricia's question, I mean, that's a tough question just for the fact because of, how do you not have any kind of, how are you going to do discrepancies between older equipment and newer equipment and people who are trying to replace versus people who are planning to replace? And the only way I think you could do that is by doing the different margins of the rebate amount and separate it by the date of equipment. So if you were trying to get people who weren't planning on replacing versus people who were going to be replacing anyways, maybe if you had a 15 or 20-year-old unit, it's worth less of a rebate versus if it's, a 5 or 10-year-old rebate, there's a larger incentive, a larger mark on that. And that's just, I'm trying to think of how you could do that. I know he's puzzling around that in his head. I could see him. So it was the only thing that popped into my head. I was just trying to help you out with my thoughts. So I don't know if anybody else has any other ideas.
I think the key is you want to make, like, you don't want to deter people from replacing the old equipment. You want to make sure they put the right equipment in. So you want to make sure they're doing a heat pump as opposed to a furnace, which is why I think that incentive, it's like, make it just enough so that it's better than the cost of the gas furnace that you were going to put in otherwise. But then of course you're also dealing with premium versus moderate cost. And, there's a lot of folks on this call that love to install really high end stuff, no matter what, even if it was gas. And so there are, the heat pump's really not that much more, but you do have the fly by night guys out there putting on, the 80 AFUE furnaces still. Those are the ones you're going to have to compete with. So then you kind of need a significant rebate to get it below that kind of cost. But there's a sweet spot in there, I think. So.
And you're right. And I think that's why it's also, why we want to get more contractors involved with this. And I'm all about trying to, spread the word about heat pumps and electrification of the systems. You want to be careful about who you're bringing into a program like this too. I think that's why starting with that Excel list is a good thing, but you don't want those fly by night people who are coming in here just going to hack through these things. I mean, that gets scary for me. I think that's part of Xcel Energy with their audit program. At one point, I called Ann Kirkpatrick over there and I'm like, why am I getting audited on 25 jobs? And that's when they came up with, the program of, everybody's going to be audited, I think, on 5 jobs a year, because I felt like I was getting over audited and these fly by nights weren't getting audited at all. So we got to be careful with that piece too. But I don't know, I'm just trying to think here about how to motivate people who, you know, to go away from that scenario, Adam. So it was just a thought.
Well, and that made me think about the intent of the program. If you have 20 or 40 people waiting for the rebates, does that mean they're queued up to get the rebates first next year when you guys then do the program again? Or how does that get prioritized? And I think, Denver, the question strategically for you is, does it matter if it's a emergency replacement or if it's somebody who's, you know, planning to make their switch at some point?
Yeah, I think the emergency replacement planning, I think that gets, we get into a place where we're doing a lot more communication and prioritizing different people. And like, who am I to say it's an emergency replacement and or not? I don't know. I mean, I like the feedback. I mean, in the end, we have to figure out what's the simplest way to do a program that can be broadly communicated out, that is consistent.
Well, I think that's like the adoption rate. So if you're looking at, you know, what is happening and you have your 50 contractors and they're saying, hey, I've got 20 or 10 or 3 waiting for next year, then it helps you kind of understand where the market is in adoption versus people who, you know, have heard about it and they're having a replacement. Like, it's the same cost to get a heat pump and they'll make the switch, which then brings up another question is, one of the things that the members brought up at the EBC is that it wasn't real clear if they could just replace the AC with a heat pump. And the answer was yes from Denver, but because it wasn't called out specifically, they talked about, you know, being aware that they making that replacement for AC and having the dual fuel going forward. And then also creating tiering. That was the other thing that was brought up that I wanted to make sure we get on the docket to discuss at some point.
Yeah, I think that definitely is a communication issue that we needed to say what was in scope for a rebate, so that, yeah, if someone is adding, you know, a mini split because they wanted cooling, well, they're also adding heating at the same time, you know, for that homeowner, because they can do both. But if somebody said, well, I didn't know that was eligible, it's like, yeah, we need to be really clear about what those products are. And we got that from some residents too, I believe. So it needs to be part of our communication plan moving forward of really what is it that we're looking for people to do and why would they install a different product. So, yeah. Justin, you got your hand up.
Yeah, sorry, I'm talking a lot here, but I just wanted to, we started going down the path of like, well, is it better to have a replacement versus somebody who's totally getting switched and stuff? I just wanted to also call it that, and we're not the only ones here that do whole home electrification. And if you are thinking about this as a bigger scope of something, the furnace going out, even if that just is a replacement. And so on one hand, we're looking at that and saying, well, that's not actually the person we wanted to target as much. It's also still building an entry point for a full home electrification with envelope and with solar and with, right, maybe the heat pump, hot water heater and all the other parts as well. So I just wanted to provide that context there of like, it's not necessarily just a good or bad between those two, but like there's entry points to lots of different work that's all environmentally helpful.
Yeah, it's a really good point, and that is one of the things that we see that between the solar and electric, cars, all that stuff could be done at the same time. And I think, if just because you're an HVAC contractor, you got an electrician on site and you can make more money, why would you, why turn it down? I think it's really just figuring out how do we, look at it from the perspective of the homeowner of saying, can I get one-stop shopping from one group, or do I have to go through 3 different contractors to get all this done? So, all right. Any other feedback? And I will say that I will have my information at the end. This is not the end of the conversation. This is ongoing for some time. And just I think we will continue to modify our programs and improve them over time. And I think one of the things that we will be doing is reviewing this again. And, we may reach out to some of you who have been very vocal to ask more questions. Adam, I knew if I kept talking, somebody would want to chime in.
No worries. I forgot. Did you guys require or have any like incentives for doing envelope improvements along with the heat pumps, like, or like different kinds of tiers? Because I know you did with solar. Like, if you do solar, you get a rebate if you also do a heat pump. But what about envelope?
We did not, mostly because it's like with this technology switch, adding one more barrier to a contractor or a homeowner to say, hey, you're going to switch out your hot water heater, you have to also do, an audit or other things. I mean,
Water heater's not a big deal, but a heat pump, it's crucial that you do envelope improvements to put in a heat pump. Like you're not going to be able to, like most Denver houses, you can't even replace the existing furnace with the heat pump because you can't get one big enough. They don't exist. Right. So like, I think it's, and again, like the folks that are probably on this call are thinking about that and are not putting in heat pumps that are too small to heat the house because of course they don't want the callbacks. But somehow incentivizing, saying, oh, if you do envelope improvements and take advantage of this rebate and then also do a heat pump, then you get a bigger heat pump rebate. I think something like that is just really, really important and can make sure that this stuff is done right. My biggest fear with all the stimulus funds and all this stuff coming down the line is you're going to have a ton of people installing heat pumps, spray and pray heat pumps at the wall. And here's Jimmy Carter land again with a whole bunch of solar thermal systems that are getting ripped off the roof a couple years later because they don't work. So it's crucial that not only are they heat pumps designed right and installed right, but that they're sized to match the actual loads in the envelope. And if you don't improve the envelope to go with it, you're going to have some big problems. Heat pump water heaters, not nearly as big a deal. There's not that kind of issue, but the space heating and conditioning issues, it's a big deal. So just wanted to emphasize that. So
yeah, and we're certainly hearing that in the multifamily commercial side also, where folks want this, make sure you do all the above. And it is, I'll say that the trick of this is how do you make something that is a rebate that is simple, do this thing and you'll get money because we want to incentivize it. And then introducing new barriers into this always.
Not necessarily a barrier. You did it for solar, right? You gave an extra incentive for solar if you combine that with the heat pump, right? Or you couldn't get that without the heat pump in addition. So it just, you don't have to block anything. It's just like make the incentives so that it's clear you get way more bang for the buck if you do the whole house approach and pay more attention.
Well, I'll tell you that we're still running our solar program. We've not run out of funds. So
wow, okay.
So
if I could just what I hear between what you both are saying, Adam and Jeff, is that Jeff, you're saying that requiring the envelope to be addressed with a heat pump would be a huge barrier. But I think what Adam, you're saying is, can you create an adder for the envelope so that would be an option to add on the envelope and there would be a better benefit when you're installing your heat pump?
Or increase the rebate for the heat pump if you're also doing the envelope improvements while there's also an envelope, rebate. So something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's good feedback. I think I just want to prepare you that it's like in the land of creating a rebate, simplicity usually wins. But hey, we're looking at these things. We also need to build up that educational component, like telling people why you'd want to weatherize, why you need to actually look at your building envelope is so crucial, because it's part of the sales job, or that is going to really need to be done. Is people need to know that just adding a heat pump is not the silver bullet.
Well,
I want to hear from Bill in the chat.
Well, and I know I saw that, Bill, that was a great comment, as well, about tying rebates to the percentage of the annual gas offset. But I was just going to say that might be the opportunity with the IRA, with what the rebates are coming, is to be able to capitalize on adding that envelope rebate in some way that creates an extra kicker for the heat pump install with the Denver rebate. how to tie it together somehow, but who knows until we see what's going on. I will drop off there.
Okay, I see Jason has his hand up also.
So in, the chat box, it looks like there's a lot of conversations about the low calcs and or whether or not these jobs are being given money without permits being pulled and inspections being done on them. Because you cannot size to the load of the home. You have to size to the load of the ductwork. So like I said in the chats, what I'm seeing, it seems like there's a lot of talk about there should be a major tie-in to the load calc as well as a manual D to make sure that these systems are being installed properly. And that gets rid of the chuck of the truck problem that I've heard talk about through, the conversation here over the last half an hour, talking about that, going to those guys. And I know that it's supposed to be tied into the companies that are certified through Excel, but if they can't pull a permit because they don't have a license, they should not be doing these jobs. I don't know what Mr. Cooper's thoughts are on that, but that's definitely something that I'm concerned about too. That should be tied in with whether the rebate program or the Excel program.
Yeah, and I think we have a qualified list, so I think everyone on that is also, they are approved. They're a city contractor. Now, did they pull a permit? I think we can go back and look at all that too. So that's something that I've not done yet. But
and it should be tied in to get that kind of a money back from you guys, you folks, because that ensures that there was at least a quality installation done. And I think Adams a little bit elaborated that too in his conversations. So
yeah, and that may be happening. I'm not fully up to speed on all the processes, so that may be something that is a part of our paperwork that at that time of application to give us the permit number. So
cool.
But maybe an installer knows. So I see Luke's hands up.
Yeah, no, I mean, nothing against what Jason just said there. I do think we need to be careful though with overdoing what needs to be turned in for these things. I mean, one rebate that I've seen not be very successful because they've over requested the requirements that need to be done on the beforehand and afterhand is like a Pewter Valley rebate. That's one that's been around here for a couple of years now. I know it is not doing very well. It has not been successful because of the criteria that it takes in order to do the pre-inspection and the post-inspection before and after install. So I mean, this also manual J's and manual D's. I mean, the Xcel Energy, if you're also offering an Xcel Energy load count or rebate on these jobs, they also want that to be sized to the home. So that's where I'd have an issue of not sizing it to the house. And most times we're going into these old Denver houses, figuring out how do we need to modify the ductwork, because we all know these old gravity systems that were installed back in 1880 are not going to support this heat pump. So now we're coming in to try to figure out these new systems. A lot of times we're going in there and we're not even looking at ducted systems. We're looking at those mini splits because that's your best solution in order for these people to qualify and to have that heat pump system that's going to really take care of this. So I just want to be careful that we don't overshoot what we want to do to make sure we get the right people in there. I mean, I think you're on the right track, Jeff, of, working with the city of Denver on qualified licensed people. Xcel Energy, they've got a preferred list as well. I fight it every day, Jason, with, going out against some of these bids that you get out there and, these people are not pulling permits and it's frustrating, but I think we've got to be careful too, not to shoot ourselves in the foot and make this too complicated. So.
I agree with you as far as that goes. If you overcomplicate it, then it's going to be more difficult. But I hate to see, good money thrown after bad, but at the end of the day, it's the customer's decision to go with who they're going with. So hopefully, as long as Jeff keeps the certified contractors in this program only, then I think that'll help a lot.
Okay, that's good. Good
I mean,
feedback.
if the goal of this is to see the energy savings and see these things cut down, it's important to make sure you have people who are doing this right, who know what they're doing, or installing these things the right way, because anybody can go slam these systems in and it's not going to make an improvement on the grid. It's not going to end up being beneficial for what the goal of a rebate like this is. I mean, so we've got to be very careful with the people who are putting it in. I get the checks and balances, but again, I've seen these things fail because they go too far. So I just want to be careful about that, because this has been a great program. And I say I've got at least 20 people who are in the shoe, possibly more, ready to go on this. If this rebate gets cut in half and I have to call them and, let them know, like, hey, I know that we talked about $7,200 on that rebate, 3 months ago, but unfortunately it's only going to be, 3,000. We'll see how those conversations go. I mean, we'll be able to salvage some, but some people may say, hey, that's not enough for me and are not worth it. So, some of these people have certain expectations because they saw what happened and they've heard that it's coming back. But at the same time, I know that will be incentive. I mean, 5% gets people over the edge, to make some of these changes. So I know that it will help extend it. It will help this thing last longer and keep us all busier longer and help, get more units installed. I know that's what your guys' goal is, not to just make a big splash, but a longer splash, like really see how many of these units you can get changed out. So.
Yeah, and I think on that note, I think one of the things that I've been hearing, just, people I've talked to that are in the market for this, some of them are saying, yeah, well, I'd do your rebate if it was stayed at the same amount, but if you're going to lower it, I'll wait for the tax break and your rebate. I want to delay so I can get the most bang for my buck. Now there may be people that have failing systems. They need it before it gets cold. That's a different story, but I think we kind of need to, I don't know. I'd love some feedback on that of, it's like waiting for the tax credits, waiting for some of these other incentives to kick in. I don't want to wait forever, but I do hear I launched something in November and people are like, I'll wait 2 months to get something. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out to anybody who wants to noodle over it, think about it. But, Jason, you still have your hand up. I don't know if you had another comment. Okay. All right.
People are definitely waiting, just like from what I've seen. There has been ever since that bill got signed, there's just this anticipation of well, let's wait. People are wanting to see, and especially with the inflation, the way things have been. And I've been telling them, I think it was Jason who talked about 25 to 45% increases. Of it may just be an offset. You may be even paying more in the long run, but it's people are waiting. If they don't need it, there's definitely a drop off of the urgency, especially over the last 2 or 3 years. Because the demand has been through the roof. So,
Jeff, I'm curious, have you been in touch with the energy office at all on their plans to go after these rebates with the IRA?
Yeah, we've reached out to a contact out there. We've got some general information. I think right now, they're still in the place of trying to figure out what they're going to do and how they're going to staff up, move forward. And I think I suspect they're coordinating with other state agencies and others across the country to say, okay, now that we got this, what do we do? And I think there's probably some of this from the federal side too of, all right, how do we said we're going to do it, now how do we do it?
Yeah, I mean, that's the big issue right now is the DOE is responsible for creating the guidelines for how it's all going to get deployed. And until those guidelines are released, the state offices can't even respond to and make their proposals. So they're waiting on that. But the question is, are they how many of the state offices are out there who've already got a draft proposal ready to go, just thinking, assuming what the guidelines are going to look like? And I'm just curious how much Colorado's got to jump on the gun on that one. So
I don't know, but it's definitely on our flow chart here of things we have to answer by really the 1st of October, before we can do design. I can't really move forward without that information. And I don't want to speculate. I want to actually build a program that is consistent and real. And so I mean, part of that is, if you guys hear, let me know.
Yeah, I mean, I've been hearing, I've been these types of things all over the country, and I've been hearing 18 months is the earliest a lot of folks are going to be able to see these rebates, because there's so much to do and figure out before they can get deployed. These rules, like the Homes Act, it requires an energy audit. It requires a certified contractor. It requires this certification. And it requires a BPI 2400 energy model, which that's what we do. But so there's a whole lot of pieces of that puzzle that have to come together according to what actually made it in the legislation. And so, you know, it's a lot to figure out. So just, I would be telling homeowners, don't, you know, there's, you know, you'll be able to get the tax credit starting January 1. So you can take advantage of that. And every year you can get the $2,000 worth of tax credits for every improvement you do every year, which is interesting. That's good for 10 years. But you know, the homes modeled rebates and the low income, low to moderate income electrification rebates, which by the way, you guys thought you had a great heat pump rebate. Theirs is $8,000 out of the gate for if you're 150% AMI. So just boom, like that's amazing. So one of the things you guys are going to start thinking about is how to serve the lower income communities with this stuff, because the incentives are incredible for that space. So.
Yeah, no, I saw those, and I think it's also understanding like that's, you know, an upfront rebate. Well, when does that happen? Who does that?
Right. How's it get deployed?
Is that from the state? Is that at the contractor level? Is it do the homeowner? That's some of those questions. And I think that's the stuff that's going to take 18 months to figure out. That's fine. I think the 30%, we may have to I don't want to wait for 18 months till the state figures it out and then we launch again. I think we need to take our momentum and keep moving now.
Agreed.
All right.
I'm gonna take a quick moment to add to that. Just as an FYI for the group, Jeff and I have been talking about this with the EBC and the role that we play typically with the utilities and with the cities, and we have a relationship with Colorado Energy Office as well. And so I think that because we have all the industry groups, we have, you know, the envelope contractors and HVAC and lighting and raters, that I feel like we could, we're going to be looking to have conversations with them and take information from our supply chain to give feedback in a much more holistic approach. So I'm just kind of doing a shout out that I'm not sure if that means that the individual action groups will put forward their thoughts or if we'll do a larger kind of bigger policy group to help inform Colorado Energy Office on where they're going with that, because I think our voice is an important voice to be heard in that among the environmentalists that are also have their ear. So
yeah, I think that's important. Well, I think we've beat this around pretty well for the last hour, which is great. I think I like getting pushed into uncomfortable places because it makes me rethink how we're doing things. It makes me think about how do we have a long-term program that is a really great program and not just, you know, we're not just doling out funds just because it looks like the right thing to do, but we're actually building on something and getting in the right direction. I'm going to switch gears a little bit and I'm going to jump in and I'm going to keep it as kind of short and sweet as possible. I may skim through some of the multifamily and commercial programs of what we're doing. We already have a pre-recorded session of doing this for our mechanical and HVAC contractors and building owners. That's already online, but I want to make sure I just touch on this before we have to go. But again, if you have questions, you can jump in as we go. And Patricia, I saw you getting in and out, but did you want to say something before I jumped in?
No, I kind of accidentally did that, but I think what I want to just like close with what I said about that communicating with the Colorado Energy Office is how do we get ahead of that? And I think that we're asking where Colorado Energy Office is at. And I think it's super important that you guys have a voice in where they go and the decisions that they make so that they come out with a great program that helps Denver and the homeowners and the contractors equally, you know, to move the market. And it doesn't become another ARA program, you know, that we all went through a decade ago. So Anyway, I just want to make sure that it was clear. I'm basically saying a call to action for everybody here to be thinking about having that input now and not waiting till we find out too late. That's it.
Right. All right. No, I think that's super important that, you know, we get together and start talking with them and figure out how do we help them in their programming also, because some of us have done these already. Like I said, I'm going to go pretty fast through these because I've got about 15 or so slides, and I don't think I want to spend more than 30 seconds or so on each one of them. We've recorded this before, and I can share that. So just so everyone knows, buildings and homes are responsible for 64% of Denver's greenhouse gas emissions. Single family homes, the ones on the red, that's just 15%. So about half of our greenhouse gas is really these larger commercial buildings. And we've committed to eliminate greenhouse gases by greenhouse gas emissions by 2040. And our goals are really, net zero energy by 2030 for new buildings and homes. That's coming up pretty quickly. And the existing buildings, net zero by 2040. These are ambitious goals. So if you looked at our Energized Denver ordinance, that is coming out right now. It's already out, but we're actually updating some of these now. We have some things in front of City Council soon. I think some of you may work in more of the larger commercial. You're already aware of benchmarking requirements for buildings over 25,000 square feet. We have some performance requirements that are coming for improved energy efficiency for these buildings that are 25,000 or down to 5,000 square feet for lighting and energy reduction over time. Very prescriptive on those in some ways. And then the last one I'll talk more about is electrification. So we're going to be requiring partial electrification at least for space and water heating. And it's really upon replacement of a system. It's not for, it's not for places that just want to do it. They have 10 years left on their hot water heater. We're looking for the places that are replacing. And this is why I think it's important for all of you, is this is not just large buildings, this is all the commercial and multifamily buildings covered by the International Building Code. So you could think of even your shops are going to be covered by the building code. So the permitting process will be changing. One question we get is, well, aren't you just going to push for more coal and natural gas being burned somewhere else and not in the city? Well, Xcel Energy is also going to be going to reduce emissions on their grid. So you can see the chart here. By 2050, they're hoping their plan is to be at zero. They're going to be much less by 2030, and we're going to see them really switching to renewables over that time. So I think there's plenty of things to be bullish about electrification. And we also know that we can have increased equity and safety. We just know that we can lower bills through energy efficiency, and we can actually, really lower the gas emissions and carbon monoxide emissions in homes. And that's a real safety issue out there. So this is probably one of the big slides for you guys, is just knowing that the permitting process is changing March 1st of 2023. So it's going to be requiring some extra steps, and I'll go through those starting this March, and then by 2025, heat pumps are required for what we call easy to electrify furnaces, rooftop furnaces, AC units, and individual hot water heaters. And we have this also when cost effective, but I think many of you have brought up that, hey, it's cost effective right now, but by 2025, all of these buildings that are non-residential or non-single family residential, it's going to be a different landscape for technology. And then by 2027, we're going to be moving to the P-tax boilers, central hot water systems, also when cost effective. So we're also working on new buildings. So this is not just the existing. We're working on right now on piloting designs and installations of all electric buildings. We want to make sure that, hey, there's actually models out there of new buildings that can do this. We want to capture the cost, effectiveness, and figure out how do we make that better over time through the code process and through the builder's process. we want to maximize flexibility while allowing the code to achieve these higher levels of performance. This also has to do with weatherization. So we want to make sure that building envelopes are really well designed, and that it aligns with Energize Denver, some of those requirements that for their energy use, we want to make sure that we're hitting those. And we're going to be really encouraging electrification. I think that's the biggest thing that you will see. So draft building code, our goal is really to bring parity between natural gas and heat pump installs. We want to make sure that in the past, it was actually a lot more work to do a heat pump. We want to bring that into parity and over time. So these are the actual code language that's going in. So we're going to have fuel efficiency as one of these. I think it's really just to make sure that when an indoor gas warm air furnace is replaced with another gas warm air furnace, it'll meet the low nitrogen dioxide emissions, and fuel utilization is at least 90, not less than 90%. That's a good step. I think we want to also make sure that we're looking at how do we bring that parity in to these systems. And if you're going to replace a gas-fired warm air furnace with another warm air furnace, and that's also these rooftop units also. Not sure how many of you get into those. You have to do at least 2 of the following. And it's really looking at electrification feasibility report. We're testing those right now. We've built a report, but it really is, I'll get deeper into that in a moment. And then also right sizing is another option, and gas pipe testing for leaks. We want electrification feasibility reports to be the thing that people choose, and we'll even have subsidies in a rebate for those. And last one for water heating, same approach. There is not a right sizing approach for hot water, but we are saying feasibility report or a make sure that you have it tested for leaks. So this is what is working its way through council right now. So really for you guys, what does this mean for the contractor in the field? And for anyone doing this work, you kind of have to understand you're going to have some change to when you go in and pull a permit. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. Chuck from Community Planning and Development in our pre-recorded version does a much better job of this. But and I'll definitely send that to Patricia so you guys can see it. But you can still choose natural gas systems and get them to permitting in 2023. You can also go directly to heat pump, either partial or full electric. There are going to be requirements for both of those. And you select 2 of the feasibility reports for right sizing or pressure testing. Or if you're going to go with heat pump, there will be a requirement for mechanical and electrical drawings and to apply. The reviewing of these documents, I think that's important for you guys to know that it's like there's still for a lot of the small projects under $500,000, it's still like a very quick review. It is not going to be the quick permits that people are used to, though. So that's what's going to be really missing, is that you used to go in and just say, hey, I'm replacing this, I'm done, move on. We're going to slow that process down a little bit, especially hoping to do the feasibility reports. I will say that there's still emergency replacements allowed. We know that it's a health and safety issue. You cannot have a building without hot water for multiple days and not without heat throughout winter. So there will be allowances for those. So one of the things, these orange boxes are really about how do we start building a program around this? So we want to make sure, ideally, we're getting our feasibility report for electrification done prior to systems failing, prior to folks figuring out what they want to do. Because I think that is that point where you can really start to have a conversation with a building owner or with an HOA or others about what are your options and what's most economical, and even getting these mechanical, electrical drawings ahead of time. And for that, we're offering an incentive. So we'll be designing an incentive for those feasibility reports, and also incentives and pilots for those people that are going towards either partial or full electrification. Fairly similar to what we've done in the single family side. What we're really looking to do is to try and figure out how do we stimulate so that we can move people from natural gas into heat pump technology in these larger buildings. So, and we're also going to be helping with some facilitation. We know this stuff isn't easy. We know that there are buildings that they're already under resourced. They already lack funds. They already lack, the connections to how to get things done. They're going to need some facilitation services, and we have a contractor on board, and to really help us think through that and to work on how do we have these conversations and getting the right equipment, the right people in, and getting these systems installed well, because big buildings will cause really big challenges if we do it wrong. And lastly, we hope to monitor and evaluate. So it's going to give us a lot of good data. Even those who don't go with electrification, we will still have good data. So city support, I've kind of ruined a lot of these already. We're looking for feasibility reports, pilots, and incentives. We have a goal of doing about 1,200 feasibility reports, incentives a year. That was our what we have as a number for quick permits in the past. Our pilots, we're really looking to learn by doing with these, and we will be coming back. This is why this is just a primer. And what we're looking to do is come back to folks like yourselves and probably others and really understand what is it we don't know about pilots. And if you know of buildings that are multifamily and commercial now that you should be, looking at electrifying, they have aging systems, they need some assistance, shoot me a text or shoot me an email. I would love to work with those folks and get them signed up. And we want to do about 70 pilots over 2 phases. That's that easy to electrify and hard to electrify, because it's going to take us a lot to learn by doing. And we have to do a bunch of these and figure out what we don't know before we launch a full incentive, which is our last step in the process, is to really have incentives, not just for feasibility reports, but for the actual install of equipment. And we're going to use our pilots and our feasibility reports and conversations with folks like you to help actually understand how do we do this. And our goal is to get to at least 10% of the buildings that are easy to electrify. It is we don't have enough funds for all the things that are coming through, but if we can get at least 10%, we're going to be moving in the right direction. And we're hoping to build off of this. One of the things that we will be coming back to talk with all of you about, and that we are excited to partner between our contractor, Michael's Energy, and EEBC, is really how do we roll out feasibility reports? Because I think this is a real chance for HVAC contractors and their engineers and anybody else that's working in your industry to have a lot of touch points with the folks that you're actually out there in the field working with right now, whether that's just routine maintenance, yearly inspections, anything else you're doing, is to really say, should we be finding out what's feasible for this system, because it's got 2 or 3 years left on its its hot water heater or furnace before we have to replace it. Be a great time to really work with you guys to figure out if this is a good time to get that information out to those customers, and a good way for you to maybe get a little more money to as you do these things, and it helps us build up that data. So we want to capture the cost of appliances, the annual energy cost, and the social cost of carbon. All this will be covered in our trainings. Right now we're designing, we're testing, then we're going to do the education materials, host trainings for folks like yourselves, energy engineers and others. I mean, it's a large group that we're going to be reaching out to. And then lastly, those incentives. And like I said, pilots and incentives, I think the biggest thing that we want to look at here is we're looking at stacking these. So I think we've had this conversation before, but I think in the end, we're looking at the cost of replacing a gas system is probably the passed on to the actual homeowner or the business owner or the whoever is the owner of that system. They would have to actually cover that portion of it. Then on top of that, we want to layer in financing, utility rebates from Excel, federal incentives, and our incentives onto that. All of that builds up to making it easier for them to electrify systems. So I think that's our end goal of this, is to figure out what does that capital stack look like? How do we get folks to start planning for these things for now, for those kind of easy, what we call easy to electrify furnaces, rooftop units, and tank type hot water heaters. And then how do we get people into the idea that, hey, we know technology is going to improve. We know we're going to start to have either heat pump or electric options for boilers, for PTACs, central systems. How do we start designing for those, and how do we start, have that conversation maybe 2 to 5 years out before we even replace, because these bigger buildings take a little bit more time to have that conversation. And if any of you have had the luxury to sit in a homeowner, an HOA meeting with folks who are saying they're going to either have a large assessment now, or they're going to have to figure out how to replace their boiler, it's not a fun conversation for them. And if we can figure out a way to ease that pain, I think we can help them ease into electrification also. And with that, I am going to share my contact information. So you can certainly email me here. And I think I'm also, I'm on the invite, or you may have it other ways, but we have 10 minutes left. But any way, shape, or form you want to get information to us, would be glad to have more conversations with you. And like I said, we're going to come back. I'm going to work with Patricia to come back either November, December, and talk more deeply about the commercial and multifamily, because this was just your teaser. Any questions, or did I put you to sleep?
Well, I'm not asleep. No, thanks, Jeff. I don't know. We typically haven't had conversations commercially with all of our contractors. And I know a couple of our members have been asking a lot of commercial questions. So if we hear more of that, maybe we make a forum to do that. I'm not really sure at this point.
Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, I do think even on the residential installers, I mean, if for folks that are out there that are, if you're doing anything in small businesses, I mean, a bike shop, a Pizza Hut, brewery, small multifamily, this will affect you. I want to make sure that you're aware of it, and that you have opportunity to participate, and that you're able to grow your business and your knowledge with us. Because your feedback's important now on the residential. It's going to be as much, if not more, on the commercial side.
Yeah, I think that it's a really good point. I think that small to mid-sized building that's worked in, and you're putting in residential equipment, and then like saying the multifamily, it's kind of, it becomes a squishy area when we talk about commercial sometimes. So it's great to know that those are included in the program.
Yeah. And I didn't want people to think that we were being sneaky. No, this was intentional, but we do want to make sure that we're working with the people that are doing the installs, providing the equipment. And I'm hoping that this can be something that we get an early enough start on, that we can actually iron out some of those things ahead of time.
Great. And then will the recording and the slides be made available to the group, or is that something you're going to hold off on? What are your plans?
No, I can absolutely, I can put the slides into a PDF, and I think you guys have the recording, so I'm fine.
Okay.
With whatever I said here is as public knowledge as it can be. So. Okay,
great. So yeah, we'll make sure and send the recording back to you, the link, and then we'll include it on our members section like we normally do following meetings, so that people can have access to it.
Okay.
Oh, and then just a shout out, and we can put it in the chat again. If there's anyone else that would like, or that you would suggest coming to the next meeting on Friday the 23rd in person in the morning before you get out in the field, please feel free to do that. It's going to be the same content again, but we're looking to get as much feedback from the group. And you know how it is, there's probably a quarter of the people who weren't able to make it that might come to that meeting. So just want to remind everyone about that. And I don't have anything else, but great meeting. Thank you for spending the time with us to give us an explanation and then everyone's feedback and thoughtful ideas of, how to make it as successful as possible for everyone.
Yeah, no, thank you, everyone. I mean, I appreciate the feedback, and I definitely want this to not be a one and done. I want to continue the conversation, and I think that this is what's going to build a better program for us.
Mm-hmm. Great. Any lingering thoughts before we go?
Nope, thanks for putting it on.
I just take 2 seconds. I don't want to be the guy that holds everybody up, but Patricia, maybe we should think about, given the importance that folks are placing on the envelope.
Mm-hmm.
We might want to look at it as a group of coming up with just some, for lack of a better term, builder option packages, some default templates that people may want to, if they're trying to go to an electric heat pump and they've got X, these are some like prescriptive one pagers or something that the folks could use in the field to kind of guide them along what would work.
Yeah, I feel like I'm really glad you're on the call because EBC, we've got 4 working groups, right? That we talk about all the time. So we've got our heat pump action groups. We've got now we're calling it the shell envelope group instead of insulation, air sealing only, includes duct sealing, everybody's tacking. There's so many ways to go after the envelope now. And then we have a lighting action group, and there's kind of a new group that's brewing, I think, is that we were calling it demand response at first, but now we're calling it like load shifting and new technology, and how that's all, they're the really progressive group moving, right? And then we're the delivery group here in the middle. And that group is third-party implementers and software developers. And we have those members in our organization. So I'm just kind of letting everyone know, if there's someone that you're working with as HVAC heat pump contractors on the insulation side, send them to get involved with what Sean's talking about, because we should be maybe connecting the dots for the insulators, because they're behind on this. And I don't think they understand how the envelope is getting elevated as we're going forward here.
Yeah,
So,
and I was thinking connecting the dots for the customer,
Mhm.
which would connect the dots for the installer. But if you're having a kitchen table conversation with a customer, you just say, well, yeah, you need some insulation updates to your envelope. Well, what does that mean? I don't know. Go talk to XYZ, whatever. If we can package some of this to make it easier for them, it just occurred to me like at the last second, it might be something that could be beneficial.
that's why you're on this call. No, but I think that's a great point. I think making it simple for the homeowner, but also simple for the insulation air sealing contractors too.
And Patricia, I would recommend, I've just met with Energy Star twice in the last month, talking to the Energy Star home upgrade that just got added. And it's got 5 or 6 bullet points, all of which align with good envelope for electrified homes. So it being a branded product with Energy Star, it might be another thing we can all point to that helps that customer understand, oh, it's not just you saying I need more insulation, it's Energy Star here talking about how to take any existing home and make it a better home. So we are thinking up here at Efficiency Works to possibly point to the Energy Star home upgrade as something that helps build the envelope conversation and electrification.
Great to know.
Love it.
Okay, awesome.
And that's an interesting component too, Scott, that the homes rebate requires this certification that the work is done in order to get that modeled rebate, and Energy Star provides a certificate of completion. So if you're running an Energy Star home performance with Energy Star program, you can utilize that program to help get you that certification component in the homes rebate. So
interesting stuff.
That in mind.
Yeah.
This is
anything
why
you guys,
we all meet.
and if there's anything you guys create, whether it's for yourselves or for homeowners, this is something we would gladly steal and put onto our website to make sure we get that broadcast as much as we can.
And Pearl certification is another great thing. If you guys haven't talked to those folks at all, but they've also got a certification platform that could qualify for this type of thing. And again, it all depends on what the government rules are going to be and how the energy offices respond to those things. But it's another national certification that's in place that could do something very similar to what Energy Star is doing in that instance. And you get this added benefit of an appraisal addendum, which immediately increases the value of your property based on your energy improvements. So another thing to keep in mind. And I just put a link real quick in case you're interested in more about like how do you differentiate the homes rebates and the you know, how all that works. We've got some flow charts on our website and a blog post that helps you understand that. And we've actually released a little calculator that lets you put in, you know, the basics of what kind of improvement you're going to do, and it'll tell you what kind of rebate you'll get. So those are just some resources if folks want to check them out. So
Great. And if we're doing quick announcements, by the way, the topic that we're considering for the next quarterly membership meeting for the EBC, this Thursday, and we're have our 7:30 meeting. It's at DU, 7:30 and 9:30. But we do have workforce development, like what's happening for who's filling the pipelines in Colorado. And then we have McStain and Thrive talking to contractors about what they're looking for from contractors when they go to a net zero or electrification home. So that's the topic this Thursday. So if anybody wants to plug into that, we can send out a notice, and then we'll be talking about the Excel rebates and how to modify and change them. You know, we call it intervening. That'll be the second half of the meeting. So you'd be able to look at the rebates that are coming. We put page numbers in the 500-page document there. So then that's this Thursday, but next meeting after that, December 15th, I'm thinking of doing the first half just on the federal incentives, and that's it. And having Tassel Rinaldi, who wrote the IRA, give us an update on where it's at, how it's being interpreted. And I was going to see if we can get Colorado Energy Office, contact them now to kind of give them a push to get answers more quickly, that they could talk to us at our meeting on December 15th and tell us where they're at. So that looks like the topic for December. If you guys like that topic, please say yes or no, because that's what I'm considering. Hopefully
Yes.
we'll have answers. Yes. Okay, cool. Any other announcements or thoughts? Sean, thanks for kicking off some really good thoughts about the insulation air sealing piece and your idea of some packages. That's cool.
I have one quick question for Adam. So that Pearl certification basically hounds my email about 3 times a day. Have you vetted those guys?
I spend a lot of time with them, and they've got a ridiculously awesome product. So, and it differentiates you as a contractor dramatically. The thing about Pearl, it's really sets them apart. And I've talked to Patricia a bunch about like starting to really work with them and have some conversations, because they're actually based in Colorado. Their CEO is in Telluride, which was in Boulder. But the thing that they bring to the table that's different than everything else is this appraisal addendum. And it's an official appraisal form that if you give this addendum to any appraiser coming to do an appraisal on the house, they're required by law to incorporate the value of those green features in their appraisal.
Okay.
So if you want to boost in the valuations, you know, and they've also got enough research that they can say, the work that we're doing, a Pearl certified home will get you an extra 3% in the value of your house at resale. I mean, that's research that they've got. So you can start selling that and offering that as part of your work, and it's just huge. So, and they're really successful. They're a VC funded, for profit. They're going out in there and killing it. So definitely give them a shout. At least give them a try. Talk to them.
What was that company name again?
It's called Pearl Certification.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
So do they actually certify us as a contractor then, or how is it?
They sign you
more-
up. Yeah, you
they just
become
sign us
one of
up?
their certified contractors, and the work that you do, you submit it on their platform, or if you're using Snug Pro and documenting your stuff, you can actually upload a Snug Pro HPXML file to their system, and there's all ways to do it. But you upload the details on the work you've done, and then they verify it. They look at your invoices. They, you know, double check some things, but then they issue. It's kind of like Lead for Home, so it's like bronze, silver, gold, platinum certifications plus the appraisal addendum. So it's neat because you can offer this stamp for the home, for the homeowner, but also show that increased valuation. So
And no audits required on performance.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry for hijacking it. I just wanted to ask that question because, like I said, I usually get 2 to 3 emails a day from those guys. So
that's a lot, but yeah, it's worth checking out.
Okay. Cool. Well, good information for sure. All around. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah. Hey, thanks everyone. I've got to leave. I've got to go feed some children.
Thanks everybody. Thanks a million. Really appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Good night.